Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to things that have become obsolete since 2000, and I've been doing a reaction to this stuff recently, just things that used to be used that are now obsolete, or everyday items that are now obsolete, and I've been really enjoying it because it's a lot of things that I had never seen or things that I've heard of but I didn't know much about them, and I don't know, I've been enjoying it, to be honest. It's just like probably a throwback for a lot of people, but for me it's looking into how different it would have been, because the last one I reacted to was like obsolete items that are now all used on one phone. But back in the day, if you had one of those items, it's like so ahead of its time, and now you've got a phone that can do all of them, and it's just crazy, to be honest. And some of those items aren't from that long ago, like 30 years ago. Like, in the grand scheme of things, that's not long ago at all. So it's like, yeah, it's just crazy how it changes and how advanced things have got. And from the point that we're at now, something that I've got here that will probably be obsolete in future. I'm trying to find something. Plug. Will this plug be obsolete in future? Will we now have a teleportation plug where you just put it into your... Let's just say you have a monitor and you've got a little thing on the monitor where you can just put it on the monitor and your phone will charge, or this will charge. You know what? I wouldn't put it past that in the future, but I don't know. But yeah, that's just how it sort of is for me. But we're going to check this out. And this is since 2000 as well, so I may have heard about more of these, but we're going to check this out. Hopefully going to enjoy. Let me know some more videos like this you want to see. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions. But this is a long intro, so we're going to jump into this and see some of these items.
In the last 22 years, we have made some huge strides in the way of technology. Before 2000, things like smartphones, iPods, text messaging, social media, GPS, streaming, and driverless cars didn't really exist. There is no doubt that it has been amazing and wonderful, but think about what we've lost. In today's video, we will have a look back on some of the things that have become almost entirely obsolete. At one time, high schools and colleges had something called computer labs. These were specific rooms where all...
We still have these, don't we? When I was in school, we called them ICT rooms? No, what did we call them? We had these rooms, not with these computers, with these chunky ass computers. We had smaller, skinnier computers, but we had these rooms. What were they called? Not ICT rooms, there's a word for it, but there was loads dotted around my school.
All the computers were kept. Back before everyone toted around their own personal computer, this is where you would go in order to have access to one. When you left the room, you wouldn't have access to a computer again until you returned to that room. Back in the days of...
That's how it worked in school recently, when I was there. You didn't have computers that you used in your class. There may be like one or two computers in your class as well, but from what I know, the computers were in the ICT room or whatever, where you'd go. There'd be like 5 or 6 ICT rooms around the school that you'd go to do specific work on the computers.
Landlines, you could call someone and hear...
And I was at school, what, 6 years ago? 2023. I finished in 2017? 2017. So 6 years ago.
Busy signal.
Or was it 2018? I don't even know. 2017, I think.
Time it was super annoying, but in the age of cell phones, we'd give anything to hear it again. If you heard this on the phone, it gave you solid information. The person you were trying to reach was home, but was on another call. Nowadays, going straight to voicemail can mean anything.
Being ignored.
Remember when you had to stay home from school because you were sick and then you watched TV all day? It never failed that you would watch The Price is Right with Bob Barker, and it's the reason why so many people have fond memories of the show. It was either that, some terrible soap opera, or the local news. Back then, your choices were very limited. In 1997, DVDs arrived in the US, and it didn't take long for the new format to make VCRs feel like cave drawings. In 2005, the Washington Post gave the obsolete commentary...
Oh, I had one of these at home. My dad had one. Like, we had like a... Next to our TV, we had loads of different things, and we had one of these. I don't know if we used it when I was there, but we had it growing up.
Tongue-in-cheek obituary. It passed away peacefully after a long illness caused by chronic technological insignificance and a lack of director's commentary tracks. Walking by a film processing counter at a pharmacy can be a little strange today. It's sort of like driving by an abandoned mall. You can't help but look and remember some past times that were better. Remember the feeling you would get when you got your film developed in 1 hour? We never really thought that something like that would become obsolete.
What the hell?
At one time, everyone used dot matrix printers. But about the only places you'll still see these are at the occasional thrift store electronics sections and the occasional car rental office. These printers were a pain in their prime, and especially when they jammed, which was quite often. But if you do happen to hear one today, it will certainly give you a happy feeling. If there's no picture on your TV today, then it likely means your internet is out. If that happens, then you will just see a black screen. However, there was a time when generations of TV watchers would get the electromagnetic noise or static on the screen, which was frustrating.
See, you see this on like TV shows and stuff, but I've never actually had this really happen. Ever, to be honest. It hasn't never happened to me. I mean, maybe when I was younger, you'd try and connect to like the HDMI and it wouldn't be connected and it would be like fuzzy. That would be the moments it would happen.
Younger generations hardly even own televisions, since streaming services like Netflix and Hulu can be viewed on their phones. Slide projectors were once a huge part of our culture.
What?
Maybe you saw one at school, or perhaps your aunt made you sit and view all of her vacation photos, which you had to pretend to enjoy. Younger generations will never get to experience the pull-down screen, heat from the projector, or the dust that would rise above it when you would see it in the light in the air.
Never seen that before.
Fax machines were once an important tool to have in many offices and businesses. But when was the last time that you used one? If you still have a fax machine, then don't bother giving out your number, because nobody is going to fax you on one of these obsolete products.
So a fax machine, how do they even work? Is it like you've got your number, then someone will use your number and then send you something? I don't really understand how a fax machine even works. Oh, you got phones with them as well? What the hell? I don't understand, man. I don't even know what fax machines do. So you can call them and then you'll type stuff. I don't know.
Kids today really have it easy. The world is full of instant gratifications, especially when you're talking about pictures. An image captured on a smartphone can be seen in just nanoseconds after taking it. In the past, instant had a different meaning. Polaroid cameras were instant, but that was in comparison to having film developed.
The Polaroid cameras are cool though. They're still like interesting because you'll get this picture and it's just a cooler experience. They're expensive as hell. That's the problem with them. You got to get the prints, you got to get like all the stuff evolving, and the camera itself costs crazy money. But they're cool, man. I think Polaroids are still used, but just if you've got money and it's for like an occasion, you know. I think Polaroid cameras are. I would love one, to be fair, but
it still took a few minutes for the image to slowly appear. Now most people wouldn't have the patience to wait for a Polaroid picture. Landlines are something that has just about disappeared. At one time they were in every home. That was back when phones were meant for talking and they didn't have internet connections, apps, or touchscreens. Taking photos with them.
Do people still use landline phones? I never had one at home. We never used one at home when I grew up. And this is around the time where they were kind of used, because early 2000s to late 2000s, landlines would have still been used then. But I, for some reason, never grew up with one. There was never one in my house.
Or sending a text just wasn't an option. Internet connections used to require a phone line which plugged into a computer. The computer would then attempt to call the internet. And sometimes your connection would get interrupted if somebody in the house picked up another phone. Compared to how things are today, it was a pain. But who could forget the excitement of almost being online? Long before cars and cell phones had global positioning systems, or GPS, it was possible that you could venture out into the world and not have a clue where you were. It was called being lost. At that point, you stopped into the nearest gas station to ask for directions or to find a map. If you were feeling adventurous, then you would keep wandering around until you figured out where you were going. It was sort of a weird thrill to be lost and then figure it all out.
Come on, no one wants to be lost.
Once the internet came along, we had directions that
And people still get lost. What do you mean?
we could print out from MapQuest. It was a lot easier, but still no GPS. For generations, music has been a huge part of our lives. Today, music can be stored on our phones or other digital sources. But there was a time when we had to physically carry around all of our music. It may have been in a cassette tape box or a CD binder. You were limited on what you could play based on what you brought with you. Sorting through all your music and then switching out a cassette tape or a CD in the car was every bit as dangerous as texting is today. Blind dates were once a real thing. Tape or a CD in the car would say,
blind dates were actually a thing. What? So people actually just meet without knowing what they look like? Surely not. I thought that was just like TV shows and stuff.
Blind dates were once a real thing. Usually a person would set you up with someone and you really had no idea what that other person looked like. Apps such as Tinder and Facebook have changed the game. Some might argue that it is also
that does make sense, to be fair, because there wasn't really pictures to be shown, so that's how it would that's how it would have had to have worked. But the idea of that is so weird now because it's just so different.
taken away the weird thrill. Kids today not only can't write in cursive, but some of them can't even read it. Cursive seems to be a lost art and just about the only thing you'll use.
John Hancock was conclude peace, contract, alliances with I cannot read that, on the protection connection between political that's hard to read though. I mean it's cool handwriting, but I cannot read half of that.
Use it for is signing your name. With everyone using email and text, it just doesn't have any real-world applications anymore. Prior to 2000, a cloud was a collection of condensed water vapor hovering in the sky. You know where rain comes from, but it certainly wasn't where you stored all your computer files. If you wanted to save something important, then you needed something like a floppy disk, which could hold up to 240 megabytes of memory. Nowadays, computers don't even have an option for these floppy disks. But if you still have some of these, then don't throw them out. They can make pretty good coasters for that cold cocktail. You know what would be a far more entertaining version of American Ninja Warrior? Watching a bunch of kids today compete in a death match where they had to find a book in a library using the Dewey Decimal System. In the end, everyone gets paper cuts and nobody finds their book.
To be fair, it's still hard. I mean, I've not gone to a library since I was in school, so that's probably a sign. But in the libraries, you just have like letters up of whatever the book starts with. That was just my limits. It was still an absolute chore to find the book.
Beepers and pagers were once a cool thing to have, but in today's time, not even the drug dealers want to use one of these obsolete products. Calculators really are tiny computers, but their only job was to do math.
They're still used. Calculators are still used. What?
They couldn't do anything else besides add.
I always wondered though, what was this part of a calculator for? Because there was this part where the numbers going, but this part, what was this always for? I never understood what it was, because there was nothing ever on it. It was just like a line. Was it the power for it or something?
Subtract, multiply, and divide.
This
oh
bit
sure,
here.
It can make some amusing swear words. 8 zeros.
Oh, you can make boobies. What other words could you make? Oh, mate, I used to have so much fun with this. Making like all these words. I can't remember.
08 kind of looked like boo. Type in 7734 and then turn it upside down and it kind of looked like hell.
That's my childhood.
But these devices couldn't do anything else. And nobody cares about carrying around a physical calculator. Our cell phones have a calculator and so much more.
Yeah, but you don't use your phone calculator in school. You have to use calculators for like tests and stuff. So they're still used and still useful. They're not obsolete. Maybe used a bit less, but you're not going to be able to use your phone calculator in school or in tests or whatever.
Remember the crazy ads that you would see in the back of magazines or free city weeklies? They could have anything from windows to food. Today, these types of ads are found on smartphones and more specifically in apps and search engines that we use. In the old days, you had to make an effort to get the information you wanted from a subscription to a magazine or newspaper. The information highway was a lot slower. The newspaper reported on happenings that had already been discussed in the previous day's newscast, and magazines were much slower. Today, we expect our news to get delivered instantly via the phone or online. This has put a strain on many newspapers and magazines. You can certainly still see some of these in stores, but you hardly ever see anyone buying them. Whether we realize it or not, our lives have changed.
To be fair, I've never read a magazine, but I still see them. But I guess it's just like people will still get them, right? But they're not going to be sold as much because, like you said, it's going to be on your phone. But the companies have just moved to phone versions anyway, so that they'll just be online instead of selling newspapers and stuff. But I don't know. With smartphones replacing landlines, the ability to slam the phone when things go wrong was taken away from us. Angrily pressing the disconnect button doesn't do anything for you, and you don't want to throw an expensive smartphone down. I don't feel old watching this. I feel blessed to have experienced all of these. Well, there we go. This is an interesting look into some changes. Some of these are still used. Some of them are like used for like certain occasions. Like the Polaroid is like, it's used, but they're so expensive in comparison to what they can do. But they are cool. Like I do like Polaroid cameras and stuff like that. Like calculators, they're still used. But yeah, a lot of these aren't. And for example, the fax machine. I didn't even know a fax machine is where you have a phone and you didn't have all this stuff. What does a fax machine? I've got to search this up. Does a fax machine do? Modern fax machines can convert the image into an electronic format that can be stored electronically, sent to an email. I still don't understand. And what does, oh shit, the top part, a calc. The solar cell powers the machine. I knew it was solar. I did say solar, right? Was that in my head? I really hope I said solar because I thought it would be, but then I thought I was being stupid. But I don't know. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction of these this reaction of obsolete items now. And yeah, I just enjoy this stuff. It's interesting to see how it's changed. But hopefully you enjoyed, like I just said a million times. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.